All right, everyone. Mic check. Welcome back to the channel. I am your gracious host, Priest of Midian. You're at Priest of Midian on X, if you can find me. Let me check my volume, make sure we're good to go here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I am your gracious host. All right, we are live. It's been a while since I went live. I took a little bit of a break, was focusing a little bit on my, just making beats and stuff like that, doing other creative things. As you can see, I have the anti-Semitism counter already up. Okay. Ben Shapiro put out a video. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. Basically, he's debunking Candace Owens on her ideas about the Charlie Kirk assassination. Okay. And it got me to thinking about Ben Shapiro a little bit and his place in this culture. As you can see up here on my top right, I have this is where Ben Shapiro made his name. This is where he really hit the scene. He was a young guy and he was doing a panel with, I believe at the time, is CNN. I could be wrong, on Dr. Drew's show. And the argument or debate was on transgenderism. And I bring this point up for a reason. With a lot of these guys like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Glenn Beck, whoever it is, right? These status quo guys, right? These gatekeepers, as some people call them. They make their fame stating the obvious. Okay? We know that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. But they roll Ben Shapiro out there to say, no, you're not a woman, Caitlyn Jenner. And everyone just eats it up as if that's some kind of brave statement, as that's some kind of like, oh man, this guy's really standing on truth. Like, it was ridiculous, right? So I want to kind of go back and look at this clip to kind of get us going. We're going to look at something he said during his broadcast about the day of the Charlie Kirk assassination. That is severely strange, if you ask me. It's very strange. And we're not going to play a lot of that because I'm sure his team will copyright my stuff or find a way to get it taken down. You'd be surprised to have a small channel like me. I'm always getting copyright strikes. I'm always getting, I have 2 hate speech warnings or takedowns. It's ridiculous. A lot of my stuff just gets censored some kind of way, but I'm okay with that, right? I wouldn't have it any other way. All right, so let's check this out. All right, I want y'all to look at this scene right here. This is from that show I talked about, the Dr. Drew show, several years back. And this is when Ben Shapiro really made a quote unquote name for himself. Let's make sure the volume's good to go. And we'll go ahead and get started on it. Let me see here. I'm looking on the wrong side. Okay, we're all the way up on volume. All right, so check this out. Let me know if you guys can hear it. I should be good to hear my audio. Yep. So here it goes.
You're not educated on genetics.
Would you like to discuss the genetics? Or no?
Well, no,
what
no.
are your genetics? Sir?
So I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
No, I know. Well, but wait. To be fair, you're actually being kind of rude. And that's not fair.
I'm sorry, it's not rude to say that someone who is biologically a male is a male.
You just
someone who is
sir.
biologically male is a male.
But Mr. Shapiro, you knew very well that saying that to Zoe would be egregiously insulting.
It's not a
Now, here's my question for you guys. Looking back on that now, do y'all feel like that was staged? You feel like that was staged? Could you imagine Ben Shapiro sitting in a room with a masculine looking quote unquote transgender and having that transgender man or woman or however the word is, however you describe it, grab him by the back of his neck and say you'll go home in an ambulance, and Ben Shapiro not squirming and screeching like a little girl? Knowing everything we know today, do you think he would have sat there and took that? He would have made a fool out of that place. Like he would have took it to a whole nother level. Oh my God, I'm suing, and he touched me, he threatened me. I think that thing might have been set up right there to give him a name for himself. The guy literally grabbed him by the back of the neck. How often do we see that in TV today? Just even in 2026 with everything that's going on in the world and how amped up everything appears to be. How often do we see in a debate someone actually grabbing someone by the back of the neck and saying, you'll go home in an ambulance? And some of these debates are heated, right? But Ben Shapiro sits there and takes it. I'm not sure, guys. I think that was set up from the gate to get that guy on our radar. All right. So that was the event for Ben Shapiro. Okay. All right. So moving on. And I don't know how long we're going to go tonight. Maybe we might go 5 hours or we might go 1 hour. But we're just going to go tonight. All right. We might come back on later. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. All right. So here we go. Here's a clip from Ben Shapiro's episode that aired. I don't know when it aired, within the last few days or few hours. And he's going to say something very interesting here, and I want you guys to pay attention to it. Watch this.
Wearing the same clothing.
Let me give you the lead up. He's debunking Candace Owens, okay? Ben Shapiro spent about an hour, and if you cut down all the ads, maybe 40 minutes, going through, quote unquote, line by line, debunking everything Candace Owens has to say about Charlie Kirk. Now, I'll be the first one to admit, I wasn't the biggest Charlie Kirk fan, per se. He was someone who, as well, I believe, stated the obvious. He stated the obvious. Black on black crime. Obvious. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. Obvious. Like there was nothing in him that screamed truth teller, renegade, revolutionary spirit at all. Now, I'm sure he was a great guy if you knew him personally like that. But to me, Charlie Kirk was nothing spectacular in that sense. And that's just my personal view on it. Everyone has their right to their opinion on how they see people like that. But Ben Shapiro goes down and breaks down line by line. During the whole episode, all he's doing is calling Candace Owens insane, crazy, vile, evil. And he's just restating the normal talking points. He's not bringing anything of significance. He's not dropping any bombs. He's not putting her in her place. He's just labeling her and stating the narrative, the confirmed narrative or approved narrative, as I should say. All right. So check this part out, what he says here. Now he's going to describe the day of / the moment of the assassination and what he was doing and what happened. Check this out.
Running to the corner of the roof and then essentially lowering himself down and dropping off the corner of the roof. So, again, this is pretty unambiguous stuff. Okay, so.
Another ad. That's all they're good for is ads, guys. That's it.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it.
That's it. You can't even get through a clip without an ad, bro.
A complete AI creation.
Disgusting.
I remember where I was when all this was happening. I was in Los Angeles. I had sort of a breakfast / lunch meeting with somebody. And my I got the news that Charlie had been shot, and my security was on the phone with Charlie's security because nobody knew what the hell was going on. Well, Charlie was still in the back of the car, and we were sort of getting updates along the way. Okay. Lunch meeting with somebody, and my I got the news that Charlie had been shot, and my security was on the phone with Charlie's security because nobody knew what the hell was going on. Well, Charlie was still in the back of the car, and we were sort of getting updates along the way. At 2:40 p.m., President Trump announced.
He said that his security was on the phone with Charlie Kirk's security while Charlie was in the back of the car because no one knew what was going on. What the hell does that even mean? How is that possible? Why is that possible? What the hell is Charlie Kirk's security doing on the phone with anyone in Ben Shapiro's or with Ben Shapiro's security team during the actual moments of it? Charlie's in the back of the car and someone's on the phone from Charlie's security team with Ben Shapiro's security team? Because in Ben's words, they didn't know what the hell was going on. What? I spent over 20 years in the Army. Okay. Sometimes pulling security, sometimes not pulling security. There's no way that that's part of the SOP, standard operating procedure. It's no way. What is that all about? How's that possible? Chaos going on. This man's been shot in the neck. Okay. They're rushing him to the hospital, to the emergency room, and hey, this is Ben Shapiro's security team. What's going on? Oh, and they're holding conversation apparently while this is going on. How's that possible, yo? Who are you, Ben Shapiro? Now, I could take that so many places. Y'all have no idea. I could take that so many places. Was he calling to confirm that it was done? Was he calling to confirm that it was over? Who would even think to call Charlie Kirk's security team during a moment like that? Something crazy's happening. Let me bother him with a phone call to say, hey, what's up? I need the scoop. How is that possible, guys? That should be a massive red flag. And I'm surprised, or I'm not surprised, because these people are not as smart as you think they are. They're not as bright as you believe they are. That he would even admit that on camera, that his people were on the phone with Charlie Kirk's security team while Charlie was in the back of the vehicle, bleeding out. Insane. Insane. But y'all go back and watch this. I know Ben's ratings have quote unquote dipped and he's losing subscribers left and right. You know, I looked at the comments, man, and it's surprising to me how many people actually like this guy. It surprises me how many people look at a guy like Ben Shapiro and says, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's insane. Let me look at the top messages. It's insane how many people actually think this guy is, and this guy's been wrong about everything. Think about this guy here. Let's talk about this guy for a minute. Let's talk about some of the more divisive, polarizing moments in the last, 6-7 years in America, starting with COVID. He was on the side of the mandates. He was saying all kinds of ridiculous things about those who didn't want to take the vaccine. He was on the side of the establishment during that time frame. He wasn't, hey, do whatever you need to do. Take care of yourself. It's your decision. No, he was calling you a moron, basically, if you didn't want to take the vaccine. Him. Now, looking back on that, I would ask anybody who did take the vaccine, and you had your option to do it, whether yes or no, right? It was your option. But I would ask you this question to all those vaccine takers. Knowing what we know now, would you have taken the vaccine? If you knew exactly what we know now, would you have taken it or would you probably not have taken it? And it's your decision, but he was for the vaccine. Trump was a very polarizing figure back in, he started running 2018, 2019, whenever it was, when he got elected in 2020? When did Trump go into office? 2016, I believe. Yeah, 2016. He was anti-Trump all the way. Ben Shapiro was anti-Trump all the way. All the way. Now he's pro-Trump. He was for like Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or somebody like that. That was who his candidate was, guys. A lot of the Jewish pundits were anti-Trump at that time. Dennis Prager, Ben Shapiro, there's a whole list of them. And I almost look back at that moment to say maybe that was planned as well. Maybe that was a plan to make Trump appear like he wasn't in bed with Israel. Could you imagine if Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager and those likes were supporting Trump in 2015, 2016? What that would have did to Trump's image? People would have said, oh, Trump's just like the rest of them. Look, he has Israel support. But the fact that they came out against Trump, it gave him a bit of street cred. And then by hook or by crook in 2020, they got Trump out of there, threw some Fed charges on Trump, and now all of a sudden Ben Shapiro and these guys are pro-Trump all the way. Strange world, strange world. All right. So let's get to this here. So this, hey, I want y'all to keep that in mind, though. Ben Shapiro, I'm going to play it again, says his security team was on the phone with Charlie Kirk's security team in the moments of the assassination. Charlie Kirk is in the back of the vehicle being rushed to the ER, and Ben Shapiro has somebody from his security team on the phone with their security team. Of all people, Ben Shapiro's security team? What are they going to do for the situation? What? And he said it on camera. And I'm telling you right now, I predict that someone's going to pick up on what he said, someone with a much bigger audience, and they're going to ask the same question that I'm asking, but they're going to fuck it all up. You watch. You watch. Someone's going to pick up on what he just said there. Let's hear it one more time, and then we'll move on to the next clip where Ben Shapiro's going to debunk Ye. Another ad, guys. Look, another ad.
Get your free Thomas Sowell ebook.
I went back 15 seconds and got another ad.
For the rich. Sowell explains how.
So, again, this is pretty unambiguous stuff. Okay, so I remember where I was when all this was happening. I was in Los Angeles. I had sort of a breakfast/lunch meeting with somebody. And I got the news that Charlie had been shot, and my security was on the phone with Charlie's security because nobody knew what the hell was going on, while Charlie was still in the back of the car, and we were sort of getting updates along the way. Okay, 2:40 p.m., President Trump.
How do y'all feel about that? Ben Shapiro's security team on the phone with Charlie Kirk's security team. That's strange to me. And I'm sure someone's going to pick up on that and talk about it, to say the least. All right. They could be on the phone with they should be on the phone with the Texas Rangers. Being on the phone with the Texas Rangers makes more sense than that. Even though it happened in Utah, get the Texas Rangers on the phone. You got Ben Shapiro on the phone. Call from Ben Shapiro. All right. Here's the one we're going to kind of dive into. We're going to dissect this. All right. Now, I got my anti-Semitism counter up. We're going to see how many times Ben Shapiro says the word anti-Semitism in this. I don't know how long is this clip. This clip might be a few moments, maybe 5 minutes. Let's see how many times he brings that word up and if he does anything to quote unquote debunk what Ye was saying back in around 2022. Here we go.
Dear friends, here's Ben Shapiro. Let's start with a difficult topic. What do you think about the comments made by Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, about Jewish people?
They're awful and anti-Semitic, and they seem to get worse over time. They started off with the bizarre DEFCON 3 tweet, and then they went into even more stereotypical garbage about Jews and Jews being sexual manipulators. I think that was the Pete Davidson, Kim Kardashian stuff, and then Jews running all of the media, Jews being in charge of the financial sector, Jewish people. I mean, I called it on my show, there's Sherman Nazism, and it is. I mean, it's like right from Protocols of the Elders of Zion type stuff.
Do you think those words come from pain? Where they come from?
And, you know, it's always hard to try and read somebody's mind. I mean, what he looks like to me, just having experience in my own family with people who are bipolar, is he seems like a bipolar personality. He seems like somebody who is in the middle of a manic episode. And when you're manic, you tend to say a lot of things that you shouldn't say. And you tend to believe that they're the most brilliant things ever said.
So we're going to keep going, but he starts off by putting Ye in a box. We got to put him in a box. We got to throw the word Nazi in there. He already said anti-Semitism or anti-Semitic once. Okay. But he hasn't said Ye was wrong. He said Ye saying things that he shouldn't say. Based on who? Based on what? Based on why? Who's the person who determines that? When do we end up in a world where people can say what you should and should not say? How does that work out? Who agreed to those terms and conditions? Who? Sherman Nazism. I don't even know what that means. He's bipolar. He's crazy. And it's crazy because I've seen Jewish rabbis say exactly the opposite of what Ben Shapiro's saying. I've heard Jewish rabbis say, we do control this. We do control that. Which that word control is so, I don't like that word control. I'd rather use the word influence other than control. Because God is ultimately in control, right? But we can't be influenced by the information that's in front of us. But I've heard rabbis say, we do run this, we do run that. There was an article back in, I think, the LA Times years ago, which many of you may have already seen, where the author of the article is basically saying, we do. He's saying it. So, I mean, is it about who says it? And I laugh, because I think God has a great sense of humor that a guy like Ye could have caused this much disruption in people's minds. See, when you see Ye, I know y'all look at him as just like a isolated figure, but you have to understand that Ye comes from somewhere, right? Remember, Ye is just a black guy. Our story is that we were just slaves. We're sub-Saharan Africans. We're low IQ. We've never built anything. So if that's true, why all the panic? Why all the concern about what he says? Remember, he's just a slave. Right? Am I correct? We're just slaves. We're sub-Saharan, low IQ. So what difference does it make what we say? No one's going to believe it, right? See, y'all don't understand. They know something that y'all don't know. I know something that y'all don't know. Here we go. I see people popping in and out. That's fine. I know a lot of people are groupies. If they don't click on a channel and there's already 300 people in the chat and this, that, and the other, they don't want to get in there. Because people are weird like that. People are sheep. All right. Here we go.
The Washington Post an entire piece speculating about how bipolarism played into the kind of stuff that Ye was saying. And it's hard for me to think that it's not playing into it, especially because even if he is an anti-Semite, and I have no reason to suspect he's not, given all of his comments, if he had an ounce of common sense, he would stop at a certain point. And bipolarism tends to drive you well past the point where common sense applies. So, I mean, I would imagine it's coming from that. I mean, from his comments, I would also imagine that he's doing the logical mistake that a lot of anti-Semites or racists or bigots do, which is somebody hurt me. That person is a Jew.
Did you hear the double talk there? He says Ye's making a logical mistake. Can you make a logical mistake? I thought the whole point of being logical is that it wasn't a mistake. How do you make a logical mistake? See, he talks fast, and if you guys are not paying attention, you'll get put into this spell. He's not saying anything. All he's doing is crying, labeling, and defaming. He has not put one piece of spiritual or truthfulness behind his words. And when you look into the scriptures, if you get into this book here, ladies and gentlemen, it tells you what the devices and wiles of the devil are. They're slanderers. They're slanderers. That's all they are, slanderers. He has not provided, he's been talking and rambling and has not said one thing about whatever Ye said that was wrong, because this is why. And then he trips himself up in his own words. We're going to hear it again. He said, Ye made a logical mistake. Isn't that an oxymoron? How do you make a logical mistake? If it's logical, it's logical. That's the whole point. So are you saying the logic was that it was Jewish people that were around him? Or are you saying that the mistake was that he said it, that there were Jewish people? What is the logic behind what Ye said? Because you said it, Ben Shapiro. Check it out.
Jew, Semites or racists or bigots do, which is somebody hurt me. Mistake that from his comments, I would also imagine that he's doing the logical mistake that a lot of anti-Semites or racists or bigots do, which is somebody hurt me. That person is a Jew.
So which one is it, ladies and gentlemen? Is it logical or illogical? It can't be both. Is it a logical mistake? You can't make a logical mistake. That's the whole point of it being logical. And that's the whole point of it being a mistake. So far, all he's done is slander. I've noticed the way this world works, guys. These people won't take on your spirit. What they try to do is grab your words and put it in a box. They put it in a box. Let's put it in this box. Put it into the bipolar box. Put it into the anti-Semitism box. Put it into the conspiracy theory box. Put it into the fringe box. Then there's other boxes. Put it into the academic peer-reviewed box. Put it into the mainstream box. They're dividers, not uniters.
Therefore, all Jews are bad. And that jump from a person did something to me I don't like, who's a member of a particular race or class, and therefore everybody of that race or class is bad. I mean, that's textbook bigotry, and that's pretty obviously what Ye's engaging in here.
So jumping from the individual to the group.
That's the way he's been expressing it, right? He keeps talking about his Jewish agents. And I watched your interview with him, and you kept saying, so just name the agents, right? Just name the people who are screwing you. And he wouldn't do it. Instead, he just kept going back to the general, the group, the Jews in general. I mean, that's textbook bigotry. And if it were put in any other context, he would probably recognize it as such.
He's just lying. On that interview with Lex Freeman, Ye named the names of the people that he was dealing with. He told you their names. He named Ari Emanuel. He named a lot of different people. I'm gonna make I'm gonna put an idea forth later on in this live about what we're dealing with right now in the world.
To the degree his words fuel hate in the world, what's the way to reverse that process? What's the way to alleviate the hate?
Notice how they just automatically defaults it to hate. Nowhere in there did Ye ever say he hated anyone. He never said that. He never said it, ladies and gentlemen. Where did Ye say he hated anyone during his truth-telling mission? I hate these ads, man. They really upset me.
You know that feeling?
They're evil.
You notice something, but you can't explain.
I mean, what?
He just automatically defaulted to a position of hate. Nowhere in Ye's discussions did he ever say he hated anyone. That was the beautiful thing about it. You know? And what do you have to be afraid of? If I say, hey, your group does this or does that, wouldn't that be a good thing? It should be good, right? You are Jewish, right? a special people, right? You have a special role in the world. So someone says that Jewish have a lot of influence over the media. Wouldn't that be right on line with what the book says? Doesn't the book say it was going to be like that? Right. So what's the issue with someone saying that? Y'all tell all the Americans they got to support Israel based on this book here. And that, Jewish people have a special place, which that word Jewish is word magic. And we're going to get into that as well. That's a fake word. Nowhere in this book are the people described as Jewish. That's word magic, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
When it comes to alleviating the kind of stuff that he's saying, obviously debunking it, making clear that what he's saying is garbage. But the reality is that I think that for most people who are in any way engaged with these issues, I don't think they're being convinced to be anti-Semitic by Ye. I mean, I think that there's a group of people who may be swayed that anti-Semitism is acceptable because Ye is saying what he's saying, and he's saying so very loudly, and he's saying it over and over. But I think that, for example, there are these signs that were popping up in Los Angeles saying Ye is right. Well, that group's been out there posting anti-Semitic signs on the freeways for years. And there are groups like that posting anti-Semitic signs where I live in Florida. They've been doing that for years, well before Ye was saying this sort of stuff. It's just like latest opportunity to kind of jump on that particular bandwagon. But listen, I think that people do have a moral duty to call that stuff out.
So there is a degree to which it normalizes that kind of idea that Jews control the media, Jews control X institution. Is there a way to talk about a high representation of a group like Jewish people in a certain institution like the media or Hollywood and so on without it being a hateful conversation?
Sure, of course. A high percentage of higher than statistically represented in the population percentage of Hollywood agents are probably Jewish. A higher percentage of lawyers generally are probably Jewish. A high percentage of accountants are probably Jewish. Also, a higher percentage of engineers are probably Asian. Like, the statistical truths are statistical truths. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about the nature of the people who are being talked about. There are a myriad of reasons why people might be disproportionately in one arena or another, ranging from the cultural to sometimes the genetic. I mean, there are certain areas of the world where people are better long-distance runners because of their genetic adaptations in those particular areas of the world. That's not racist. That's just fact. I mean, what starts to get racist is when you are attributing a bad characteristic to an entire population based on the notion that some members of that population are doing bad things.
Yeah, there's a joke.
What does that do for y'all? Nothing, guys. So basically he's saying that it's okay to say something good about a group, but you can't say anything bad about a group. See, one thing I realized about the Shapiro ethnicity, the Shapiro people, is that, when you take a step back and look, we're already up to 7 instances of him saying anti-Semitism, and this is about like a 3-minute clip so far. Okay, this is that over and over again in your head. Okay, the Bible doesn't say anything about anti-Semitism. This Torah and Tanakh that they speak about so much, it doesn't say anything about anybody being anti-Semitic. But the Jewish culture is a peculiar culture in the sense that on who they actually hate. Okay, I said this before on the stream. It's interesting to me, right? We can look at we'll look at 2 public figures and then 3. Stick around for this. Let's look at Hitler. Now, we all know that Adolf Hitler is the most evil, vile, murderous bastard that ever walked the face of the earth. We know that, right? We know that. Hitler is just the epitome of everything evil. Okay? We know that. Okay? And Jewish people hate Hitler. Okay, I'm cool with that. Got it, right? Hitler, devil, synonymous, evil man. Jewish culture hates Hitler. Got it. Okay. Now let's look at a man named Jesus. Now, regardless if you believe that Jesus existed or not, that's not the point of or my idea. The ideal is that Jesus represents good. Regardless of your feelings of whether this man existed or not, Jesus is the embodiment of everything good, courageous, truthful, life, love, happiness, togetherness. We can all come together. That's Jesus's. He's symbolized that way. And wouldn't you know it, Jewish culture hates him too. So right now, it appears that we're stuck between Hitler and Jesus, ladies and gentlemen. This world, since World War II, we'll talk about just from World War II, because we can go back further to the left than World War II. But just in this modern society, this is what society looks like when it's stuck between Hitler and Jesus. We're in the middle, in this purgatory, where if you go too far towards Hitler, you're evil, you're bad. And if you go too far towards Jesus, hey, we don't F with Jesus like that. How can you hate both? I could see you hating Jesus and loving Hitler, or hating Hitler and loving Jesus, or whatever way you want to kind of mix it up. But to hate both is strange, to say the least. It's strange, to say the least. You hate both. And you hate Ye now. What? Y'all hate Ye too? Stop playing with me, man. Nobody want to hear that, man. Here we go. Let's see how many more times we get that word out.
Between, it's also possible that record label owners as a group have a kind of culture that F's over artists.
Sure.
Doesn't treat artists fairly. And it's also possible that there's a high representation of Jews in the group of people that own record labels. But it's that small but a very big leap that people take from the group that own record labels to...
I run a podcast solo. No producer, no editor, no...
I think that one of the other issues also is that anti-Semitism is fascinating because it breaks down into so many different parts. Meaning that if you look at sort of different types of anti-Semitism, if you're a racist against black people, it's typically because you're racist based on the color of their skin. If you're racist against the Jews, you're anti-Semitic, then there are actually a few different ways that breaks down. Right? You have anti-Semitism in terms of ethnicity, which is like Nazi-esque anti-Semitism. You have Jewish parentage. You have a Jewish grandparent. Therefore, your blood is corrupt and you are inherently going to have bad properties. Then there's sort of old school religious anti-Semitism, which is that the Jews are the killers of Christ, or the Jews are the sons of pigs and monkeys, and therefore Judaism is bad, and therefore Jews are bad. And sort of, in the way that you get out of that anti-Semitism, historically speaking, is mass conversion, right, which most anti-Semitism for a couple thousand years actually was not ethnic. It was much more rooted in this sort of stuff, right? If a Jew converted out of the faith, then the anti-Semitism was quote unquote alleviated. And then there's a sort of bizarre anti-Semitism that's political anti-Semitism, and that is members of a group that I don't like are disproportionately Jewish. Therefore, all Jews are members of this group or are predominantly represented in this group. So you'll see Nazis saying the communists are Jews. You'll see communists saying the Nazis are Jews, or you'll see communists saying that the capitalists rather are Jews. And
okay, this is just rambling. We've went through all that and he hasn't said anything. He's not saying anything, ladies and gentlemen. What is he debunking? Who has ears for this? The dynamic between black people and Jewish people is going to be the what's the word I want to use? The rock that this society is broken on. That paradigm between blacks, those that the world call black Americans, not Africans, but black Americans, and those that are labeled Jewish. Those two are going to collide, and that's going to be the rock that test this current worldview, this current system of economics, of war, politics, religion. It's those two, and those two alone. Nothing else will impact the world more than that paradigm right there. You know, and I'll tell you right now, if you all believe that guys like Ben Shapiro actually are the writers of, you know, this book, if Isaiah was Jewish, Jeremiah was Jewish, Moses was Jewish, you've been deceived. You've been deceived. You've been sorely, sorely, sorely deceived. And my main thing against the Jewish agents would just say that of these black celebrities is that there's a massive imbalance in how things are done. On one hand, you have a people that, according to them, can trace back their lineage 3,500 years. They're the people of the Bible. They have this bond that transcends nations, okay? That transcends time. They have a wealth of knowledge according to the Jewish narrative, okay? And then on the other hand, you have the people that were severed from their history, severed from their culture, their identity, their God, okay? Lost. But they have talent. And when they have that talent, typically in order to be seen on a world stage, they're going to have to deal with a record label, a movie agent, whatever the case may be, right? And do business with that person. But just off the rip, that imbalance will not equal great results. You can't have one people that have this intact history and knowledge of self, according to them, and pair it with another people that have been stripped and lost everything and think they're going to get together and make magic together. It doesn't work that way. And then when you couple that with the things that these black artists are being paid and enticed and influenced to put out to the world are destructive behaviors. Why would you do that? When is the movie studio going to say, you know what? No, we're not going to put that movie out. When is the record label going to say, no, you can't say those lyrics? Y'all know y'all lost. Why would you want to promote killing of each other? Instead, they do the opposite. They put them on TV with gold chains, a big house, and a car, and say, now go around and show all the other blacks how much money you made to say the things you've said. Where's the love at? Is what I would ask the Jewish community. Brother, where's the love? You're not showing any love to us. This guy said anti-Semitism 17 times in less than, and I'm just gonna do we started this about at the 2-minute mark. We're up until about 6 minutes in, and this man has said anti-Semitism 17 times and not said anything of substance in that. Guys like Ben Shapiro are shallow. Their soul is not spiritual. They pull from a different energy. Okay? And we're going to end the stream with this concept here. You have to understand, the truth and the lie are the only thing that matter, right? But here's one beautiful thing about the truth. Okay? The truth sets free, and the truth also bounds or imprisons. The truth sets free and it sets bounds. It imprisons. But a lie only imprisons. That's the only thing a lie can do. Because the people who believe the lie are imprisoned by the lie, and the people who tell the lie are imprisoned with the idea of keeping the lie going. No one's free under a lie. Ye said something on one of his Drink Champs interviews is that, your truth could, it all depends on what side you're looking at, right? Here's another example between black and Jewish. Jewish people are freed. They're set free some kind of way by the idea of the Holocaust in Germany. Some kind of way they're set free by that. They got their own province now. They have a military. If you criticize them, they say, look at the Holocaust. So that Holocaust story, whatever you want to call it, sets them free. But the slavery story imprisons, quote unquote, black Americans. It doesn't set us free. What you're going to find out before this whole thing falls down is that your whole reality, everything this world is built on, going back since the beginning, there's only two influences, one of good and one of evil. That's it. And it breaks down to two brothers. There's only two brothers that have been ordained, that have a covenant with God to influence the world. One is Jacob, who became the father or progenitor of the Israelites. And the other is Esau, who became the father or progenitor of Jewish people. That's it. And right now, this world is being influenced under the Edomite or Esau worldview. And that's why confusion is running wild. That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. So if you watch this whole live, you can never say you didn't hear some of the truth. You will not be innocent in that day to say, I never heard anyone speak on these such things. Yes, you have, if you watch this video. So we're going to go live later on tonight. We're going to talk about Kodak Black. Kodak Black, if you don't know, is a rapper out of Florida. I think the brother's Haitian. He did a quick little clip on one of his streams saying that he said Kendrick Lamar and Kanye are the KKK because they Jews. So we're going to get into that later on tonight, probably around 8 o'clock or so. So go ahead and take a break, y'all. Make sure you hit like on this video if you come through. Don't be a nerd. Don't be a lame who looks in the chat and sees that there's only 2 or 3 people in here that, I'm not going to watch that. I'm saying things that your average YouTuber, 99% of your YouTubers don't know and don't have the courage to say because they're hiding behind some monetization. Not me. All right. So I'm going to go live again, maybe around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, talking about what Kodak Black had to say. I'm going to start going live a lot more, and I'm going to start talking about everything. All right. We're going to talk about every little thing that comes up for the most part. All right. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all. For those who did stop by, for those who did hit that like button, for those who may follow, I appreciate it. All right. And we'll see you again later on this evening. Much love. And I'm out.